result in my connection completely destabilizing.
As long as we can hear you, that's okay.
Okay,
You
great.
Right. Yep, no, that's fine. I just...
Right, I think we're ready then. Okay, so we've had apologies for absence, and I think we are now maybe just one councillor down. Maybe that's to be confirmed.
Chair, can you confirm the absences, please? I wasn't aware of those.
Right, it's okay. For the apologies?
Yes, please.
Right, so it's Davies, Myers, Tucker, Councillor Butters, and I think that's all, isn't it?
Councillor Lake, sorry, Butters shouldn't be on there. That's my error. And Councillor Shern, I've not heard a response from.
Okay. Right, so who are we missing then?
Councillor Johnson.
Okay, fine. Have you got that, Dave?
Yeah, can you confirm who's there, actually? I think that's a good way forward.
Here.
Well, I can confirm that I'm here. Well, I think I'm
And
here.
me. And I'm here.
Right. I think that's all, isn't it? Okay, there's someone near a dog, and I can hear someone talking. I'm not sure.
It sounded like somebody was in the bath room.
Right, so we'll go through the how we conduct these meetings in a second.
Why is it
If
keeps
the host can
going
now
on?
mute everyone, please. You can mute yourselves, or can the host mute everyone?
Oh, you've gone off.
You told me to mute myself.
Mute yourself.
Okay, I'll do it again then.
Okay. Great. I can still hear a dog though for some reason. It's gone. Okay, good. Right. We'll go through the how we conduct these meetings in a second. Oh, there's a delay now, a lag. This is annoying. Never mind. Can everyone hear me in real time? You can wave if you can. Good. Okay, right. So I hope, Dave, you've got all the people who aren't here who've apologised.
Well, as I say, it might help the public as well if you could just say who is present.
Okay, let's just go around quickly and introduce ourselves then. So it's Councillor Lake. Unmute yourselves.
Councillor Jacobs.
Councillor Harriet Clough.
Councillor Brian Hopkinson.
I think that's it then.
Got Councillor Massey.
Yes, I'm here. I did say, but I got
All right,
caught.
sorry.
Sorry, that was my fault.
It's all right.
So we've got 5 councillors, yeah?
5 councillors, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's
Okay,
a quorum, we're okay.
Brilliant. So item 2, emergency evacuation procedure. That's not applicable to us at home, and everyone else who's still in work, you obviously know your own procedures. Declarations of interest, none advised.
None, no.
Okay, I need to now read out a long-winded explanation about how we do these meetings. So bear with me. Okay, in view of the current restrictions that COVID-19 has placed on everybody, including the Fire Authority, this meeting of the Avon Fire Authority will take place using Zoom this morning, in fact. To ensure the meeting goes as smoothly as possible, there are several points and guidelines that I would like to run through with members and for the benefit of any members of the public that are watching the live stream of this meeting. Once the meeting begins, attendees will be placed onto mute unless invited to speak by the chair of the meeting. Kind of. If members wish to speak or have a question, please indicate this by sending a message using the chat function.
I'm in a fire authority at the moment in the meeting.
This will be monitored, and at the end of each item, there will be an opportunity for members to speak in turn.
Yes,
Is
please.
everybody familiar with that chat function?
It's on YouTube. Yeah, there is a slight delay, but yeah, it should be on YouTube. Yeah.
Is everybody okay with the chat function?
No, I'm not. Where does it
Okay.
say chat?
Well, it may be different depending on what device you have, but you should have a few icons across the bottom or at the top of your screen.
I've got the top. It says video, share content, participants.
There should be a little box that says chat. Is there?
No.
Click on participants. Is there anything coming up in that?
No.
Okay, well, Ruth, if you go into participants, you may see something that says raise hand.
What I've got on participants is me, the number, Vaughan, you,
Yeah, but if
phone,
you look all the
Brian,
way
and
down- if you look all the way down to the bottom now, can you
it
see
says
something that
invite.
says- Right, okay, well, you're seeing something different to what I've got. Well,
Nothing would surprise me.
if anyone else has a suggestion of how you can see chat, otherwise, you're quite welcome to raise your hand physically.
that would be
in stage,
better.
Okay?
That'd be fine.
Karen, our IT expert, is going to come in with.
I'm just hovering over the bottom of my screen, and to the right of the mute button, there's a number where it says participants. I've got another bubble that says chat, and I don't know whether anyone else can see that.
No,
Yeah, I can.
I can't.
That's the computer Zoom. Ruth, are you running Zoom on an iPad, an iPhone,
Yes,
an
yes.
Android, an iPhone?
Yeah, iPad.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it should.
But I can put
where it
up my
says
hand. So
share screen.
I've got the screen. I've got your beautiful picture. But nothing
that
chat.
says share screen.
I've got share contact. I can put that on. Let's see what happens. Cloud website, but no.
Okay, well, not to worry for now. You can just indicate by raising.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Yep.
Hopefully everyone else is okay with using the chat function. Okay, the open section of the Fire Authority meeting will be video recorded and live streamed onto the Avon Fire Authority, Avon Fire and Rescue Service YouTube channel. By attending a meeting via Zoom, attendees are agreeing for their images and voice recording to be posted. Due to the reduction in length of meetings, it is intended that for reports provided for information or noting, a full discussion will not take place. Please keep any mobile phones on mute to avoid interruptions and interference with sound. Public access statements will not be able to be presented at the meeting by the author, but will be received by members and published along with the minutes of the meeting. There is a time limit of 30 minutes. Public access, no public access statements have been received for this meeting. So is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah, we would have had something similar for the authority meeting anyway. Okay, fine. I don't have much other chair's business, but just to note from a community perspective, how appreciative the community of St. Paul's were for the fire and rescue service for the Adventure Playground fire, which was a really sad event, but everyone really appreciated the efforts. And also, Vaughan and I have been working on a project which hopefully most of you know, which is about trying to get unwanted or unused kit, i.e. laptops, desktops, smartphones, out to people who are digitally excluded. So if there's anything else that anyone feels they can do, please do get in touch with myself and I'll send out an email to everyone anyway. I know there should have been something that's gone out to all staff members asking if they have kit and perhaps looking into what the process is for the service's own kit when it comes to the end of its life. So I'll keep you posted on that, but I just wanted to also thank Vaughan for all his work in that area. So now we move on to agree the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held
Chair,
on...
can I just make a plea, please, that on the agenda items 14 and 15 are reversed. So later on the meeting, if we can take item 15 prior to item 14, as we have a professional advisor joining us for the meeting.
That's fine, as long as I remember. If I don't, please remind me, because I can't annotate onto my iPad at the moment.
Chair, can you ask the members that they agree to that, please?
So, members, do you agree to just changing the order of the last two agendas?
Yes, no problem.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, I can see a raised hand.
Apologies, the solicitor that's joining us, it was our understanding in HR that they were joining us right at the front of the agenda and doing that item first. So apologies if I've misunderstood, but that was how we understood the meeting was going to go this morning. And the solicitor is dialed in now to take that part of the agenda.
Ah, okay, that's news to a lot of us. But,
Yeah.
so you're suggesting now that we need to stop recording? Is that what you're suggesting? We need to move the item now, or?
Sorry, you're the chair of the meeting. Understand that, councillor. It's just that was what I understood had been arranged yesterday. Was that the solicitor would do the first part, and that protected pink paper would go first.
Right. Okay. Well, so the solicitor is with us now, are they?
Yes, I can confirm. Hello, it's Gemma Corthwaite.
Hello, Gemma. I was trying to be polite by not asking who is Gemma, because I was wondering who that was. Well, this is a little tricky now. Is Vaughan there, who's doing our technical stuff? Because that would mean having to stop recording.
Chair, rather than create any confusion around stopping recording, Gemma, are you able to join us a little bit later on in the meeting?
Yes, if you want to confirm a time, I can dial back in.
So can I suggest then you rejoin us at 11 o'clock, if that's okay?
Of course.
It gives us an opportunity to cover the other agenda items, and then we can go into closed session.
Lovely.
That's great. Yeah, that's fine.
That's
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. Okay, problem solved. Great. So thank you, Simon. Back to agenda item 5 then, agreeing the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of March. I move the minutes. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you all vote in favour of accepting, please?
Aye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
In favour, great. We don't have a public access statement, so we move on to agenda item 7, which is the DICE strategy and culture change update, which I believe, Richard, you'll be presenting.
Right, yeah. Okay. So we've been, the DICE team have been working on the cultural change program and also the DICE strategy. In terms of the DICE strategy, we've been working on support in risk reduction with vulnerable adults and the partnerships. So we've been working with Nikki Rice and looking at how we can provide demographics for vulnerable adults and communities in which they live, identify partner agencies that can help with referrals. And we've been discussing also the training, D&I training and cultural awareness training for the community safety team. We are supporting them with that because we understand that there are particular areas in and around Bristol that they are not familiar with. For example, the Gypsy Roma traveller community. So we are collecting information and intelligence on that so we can provide that to the community safety team so that they get the same service as every other community that we serve as well. We're also looking into the boating community as well to make sure that we are providing the right service for them as well. So there's ongoing work in that particular area. With community engagement, we are currently working with SARI on a number of areas, including building partnerships, again, trying to access new and emerging community groups, as well as bolstering our relationships with our existing community groups. Trying to establish relationships with educational establishments as well, colleges, schools, universities. Again, trying to tap into students that may be interested in a career with the fire service, not just operational, but also corporate services as well, and other technical services. So we are talking with SARI about how we build relationships there. Obviously, we can't do any face-to-face meeting at the moment or engagement, but we are looking at doing that virtually as everybody else is. We're also working on the recruitment process as well with SARI to ensure that our recruitment process, is the barriers are eliminated, and we can get a community insight on how it is, what the experience is going through that recruitment process, so that obviously we can free it of any potential unconscious bias. We're also discussing DICE training as well, getting advice on DICE training, the best practice, best way to deliver that and evaluate the training after it's done. Also with community engagement, I'm currently working with South Gloucestershire Race Equality Network. I've joined a couple of meetings with them. One most recently focused on the impacts of COVID-19 on the BME community. As you will be aware, there's been quite a few reports in the media about the impact on particular groups, BME being one, the elderly, LGBTQ, and the disabled also. So again, we are working closely with South Gloucestershire Race Equality Network to see how AFA Fire and Rescue can support vulnerable people in the community, and especially in those BME communities. I gave a brief on last week, Wednesday, at a SGREN meeting, which involved the public, and that was answering questions and reassuring the public about AFA Fire and Rescue's operational tasks during this pandemic period. So moving on to D&I training, or equality, diversity, inclusion training. We've been working quite hard on trying to get an external trainer to be able to train our middle managers. That middle management group identified in the HMIC FRS report and the culture survey as a group that would need to be equality and diversity trained. We've now found an external trainer. Again, because of the pandemic, we can't go ahead and do any face-to-face training, but we are doing the logistics and the planning so that we can get everything lined up for when we do return. And when we do return, we will be conducting those workshops. It's likely to be around 13 workshops, 15 to 20 people per session, and they will be for 4.5 hours. So we'll keep you updated with progress on that. Policies, currently training our new DICE officer, James Gravenstein, on equality impact assessments, and we'll be working closely with the transformational team to ensure that all our policies are equality impact assessed. We're also working on collecting data and getting ready the intranet page for demographic data to help the organisation, special managers, with identifying communities and other equality and diversity information that would be useful in terms of their roles. We've been conducting cultural change workshops as well. Unfortunately, the pandemic cut our progress with those pilot workshops. We organised 6 pilot workshops to test the ground really before the major rollout of the cultural change workshops. So far, we've done 2 of those, one with middle managers, and the second one with Bath 12 and Chew Magna. Both sessions went really well, quite different in outcomes. The middle manager training was quite informative, and the managers engaged very well, some useful feedback. with the second one, Bath and Chew Magna, a little bit more challenging. Again, some really good feedback, especially around the video. Many enjoyed the culture change video. There were some questions about some senior management in those videos and about living the values. They did mention that the chief's visits and senior management visits to stations were welcomed, and they will support those also. Obviously, when we get back to some form of normality, we will continue with those sessions, but we are looking at also the possibility of doing them virtually as well. We've also, we wanted to keep the momentum of the cultural change program going even through these difficult times. So the cultural change working group have pulled together 5 cultural Zoom sessions for cultural advocates. It's a good way of engaging with the cultural advocates, saying hello, making sure everybody's okay during this time, but also a good temperature check for how things are changing within the organisation. We've completed 3 of those sessions so far. Again, really positive. A little bit down on the numbers expected. So we have 6 participants per session. And it's just a chance to be able to talk openly and freely in a safe environment about how they feel about the changes that are going on, what they've heard, how people are living the values, and anything that we can do as the cultural working group to support them with their role as cultural advocates and anything else as well. We've collected the feedback from those sessions, and we will be analysing those at our next cultural change working group, and we will use that feedback to fine-tune sessions going forward, and also to inform us about the cultural change roadshow, which will obviously resume when we get back to work again.
Thank you, Richard. That's quite extensive. Is that the end of the report?
It is, thank you.
Well, great report. Thank you very much. I think it's encouraging to hear at the beginning of that how you're also reaching out to other communities, i.e. Roma, Gypsy, Traveller. I think that's really important. Does anybody else want to make a comment or a question, or happy to note the report?
I think, yeah, just for me, just for members' awareness, one thing that we'll be able to use, as we're using now here today, the Zoom technology, this pandemic has enabled us to try different methods of engaging with the workforce without sort of pausing, if you like, business as usual. So we've been able to try to maximise the use of technology to continue to engage with our staff, in particular around that cultural journey, which is really important in embedding our behavioural framework and our values across the service. So credit to the team that have been involved in that and pushing that forward, but also credit to the organisation. I've continually wanted to maintain that contact and be involved in this ongoing journey.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Richard. So we now move on to agenda item number 8, and hopefully most of you would have had a chance to read through this because we are short of time to present all of it. Is there anybody who wants to make a comment on it at all? It was a very good report, Karen, with some good figures in there. And I know a lot of work, as with the previous report, so much that is still being done despite the challenging circumstances. So that's really, really encouraging. And of course, certain elements are on hold. Did you want to add anything, Karen, briefly?
And thank you for that, Councillor. I think the only things that are missing is that there will be some more data analysis that will be done. Obviously, you attended the event on the 1st of February, and I think both of us shared some conversations that maybe we were slightly disappointed with the diversity. So whilst, of course, we should look at the positives, is that there was some good diversity that attended. There were also a lot of other people that bought or asked for tickets but didn't attend on the day. So we're working with those to try and get a better understanding. We discussed at the last meeting sometimes why, Are we holding events in the right way, in the right communities? Are we advertising in the right way? So I think there are some lessons still to be learned around that. And the only other thing I would like to say is obviously at the moment we're still shortlisting the applications, and then some decisions will be taken by the service leadership team, both looking at the quality of the applicants, the diversity breakdown, and then also the reality and the financial impact of, do we just fill one training school from this current cohort of applicants, which we pushed back the training school. We're looking at probably running around the 11th of January next year, and probably another training school in April, because we are expecting a higher than the normal level of leavers during this period, because there's been a national pensions ruling, which means that some people will be retiring early. So we do some quite careful succession planning, which is led by ACFO Shilton. So what we'll do at that point is we will pause and we will make a decision on all of those factors to see whether we fill 2 training schools, or do we almost start all over again, looking at the lessons learned from this campaign. I suppose all I would like councillors to be reassured is that every single campaign we do, picking up on some of the things that Richard was saying about some of the potential barriers, we look at the diversity breakdown all the way through and make sure that we fully assess that and make sure that the criteria that we have for our applicants is objectively justified, and that we're not putting barriers in people's way that can't be justified from a work basis. So I hope that that helps to reassure you all.
Great, thank you, Karen. Okay, so if we're all happy to note that report. Oh, sorry, Brenda.
Brenda would like to ask a question.
Sorry, I found it really interesting, this breakdown, and particularly the bit about some people elected not to complete the test. And I think it would be fascinating to find out the reasons why they decided not to. And I can see it says you are contacting them to check that.
Yeah, so thank you, Councillor Massey, for picking that up, and apologies, I should have pulled that piece of information out. Sarah Collins on my team, who's responsible for recruitment, she's emailed every single one of those applicants to find out the reasons why they didn't participate in those stages. In the vast majority of cases, the responses that we had back were either they didn't read their emails, their emails had gone into the trash. We give a lot of information at the outset to candidates saying it is really, really important that you don't miss the deadlines. There were a couple of cases where people did say that due to COVID related, so we had one unfortunate candidate who had lost a very close family member, and of course we extended the deadline for that person, but we had other people that said they were just too busy to complete it. We know we were in a period of pandemic, but the good thing is that these all of these tests last about 15 to 20 minutes. They can be done online, so they can be accessed 24 hours of the day, 7 days of the week. So we're fairly confident that we did all we can to enable those candidates to access. But of course, that's something we need to look at our next campaign. Do we need to give people much longer to complete those stages? But of course, it's a balance between, we want candidates that are fully engaged and willing to find 15 or 20 minutes in their busy day to complete an assessment. So it's that balance to be made, Councillor.
145 is quite a lot for them to not do that. I think that's really interesting, and it's useful to find out some of those reasons.
And next, if that would be helpful, I can correlate all of that information and present that back when we do lessons learned at the end of the campaign. I can make sure that's included in my next report.
Just out of interest, quickly, Karen, do we also, whilst we can't, go do masses, do we also send out texts to, alert people that there may be an email?
We don't text alert at the moment. That is something potentially that we could do. At the moment, we do a lot of communications in advance, telling people to check their emails every single day, check their spam, check their trash, because an email will be coming. We explain that it will be from Avon Fire and Rescue Service. We entitle the emails very, very carefully. But text alerts is something that we can be looking to do in the future, definitely.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. I notice we're now joined by Councillor Johnson. Good morning. Hopefully you can hear us anyway. Morning.
Hello. Hiya.
Okay, and we also have Gemma back. Gemma, we're not quite there yet. We're probably about 10 or 15 minutes off, realistically.
Would you like me to call back in 10 minutes or so then?
if you could, apologies.
No, no problem. Don't worry. I'll dial back
Thanks a lot.
shortly. Thank you.
Cheers. Right, so we move on then to agenda item 9, which is the annual review of employment cases. Again, I hope everyone's had a chance to look through all the papers on that. And you may have some questions. Karen, would you like to comment on it before we open it out to very brief questions and notes?
I think it was just to pick up the headlines, thank you, Councillor, is that the positive thing is all of both the grievances and the disciplinary cases, you will see a downward trend over the last few years. Obviously, we've had far less cases, both for grievances and disciplines, and also some of the cultural issues which have been raised before, things like grievances from female members of staff, and particularly operational staff, who were feeling that the culture was not very welcoming towards some of those female staff, and they'd raised some quite significant issues. That hasn't been the case in the last year. So I'm hoping that what this is showing is that all of the good work that has been done on the cultural improvement journey is starting to bear fruit. And I'm very confident, as obviously being very experienced and long serving in HR, these are very, very low numbers when you look at it in the context of the overall number of employees. But of course, every case is concerning and warrants sort of close investigation and scrutiny, and I'm confident that we're doing that.
Would anybody else like an opportunity to comment? No? Okay, so everyone's happy to note that report. Thank you. Okay, moving on, we go back over to you, Richard. Agenda item number 10, which is the gender pay gap. And again, we did have quite a few notes to read ahead of this meeting.
Sure.
And it's one of those topics, I don't know about other people, but it's kind of quite complex in a way, what kind of strategy you use to compare. Of course, it should be like job for like job in an ideal world in terms of getting these statistics. So I'm trying to clean myself up on this quite a lot. And I would say it's encouraging that we are also looking at potential pay gaps in relation to ethnicity, which is not a requirement, but it's something that we are moving towards, which is really encouraging. So, Richard, anything you'd like to add to the report we've already seen?
The thing is, this year, as you read in the report, that we weren't required as public bodies to report this year. Again, with other inspections, it's obviously been cancelled temporarily. But we thought it was a positive move to collect that data and publish that data as well, which some external bodies were encouraging that if public sector bodies did have that data at hand, go ahead and do it. So we've done that, and I think that's a real kind of positive move. You're right, Cleo, it is very complex, a complex area to work on, and I'm learning from it all the time. Out of the two, gender and ethnicity, gender is the easier one to work out. And as you'll see from the figures, and I've sort of explained why there is quite a big difference between the 2 years. Our gap is not huge compared to some other organisations. I think the interesting thing about it is that it's not just about reporting, it's not just about showing the figures, it's about analysing why there is a gap in the first place, and creating actions to address that. That's where the complexity comes in. So that's something that we will continue working on. So just to sort of reassure everybody that it's not just about reporting per year, it's about also looking into what are the impacts or the effects of pay gaps, whether it be gender or any other protected characteristic, and really sort of actioning those areas where there is the causes for those gaps. In terms of ethnicity, yeah, that's where it does get really complex, because you've got a number of categories in which to compare this data against, and then we also have to think about things like intersectionality. How does that play a part in the ethnic pay gap as well? Again, this is something that is, for me personally, something quite new. It is an interesting area, and I will be doing further research on this outside of reporting, and I will keep this group updated in any findings that I come across.
Okay, Simon.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Just on the work that we've done with the ethnicity pay gap, that's for members' information for fire authority purposes based on your requests, so that we can continue to monitor that and match that against obviously our recruitment strategy and aspirations as well. So currently the ethnicity pay gap is not a legal requirement for us to report on, but we've decided as an organisation to be proactive in this area and be transparent in our workforce makeup and obviously related to the salaries within the organisation. The gender pay gap, as Richard referenced there, is the one that's a legislative requirement for us to report on report on a yearly basis on there. So the ethnicity pay gap is for members' information, and where we can utilise that for internal purposes.
Can I just add one more onto that one as well? With the ethnicity pay gap, in particular for our organisation, there is an issue of identification. Our numbers of BME staff are so low that anybody witnessing those figures and those stats, people can be identified from it. So we have to be really careful with that information, how it's shared. But I just wanted to sort of highlight that point, and that is the difference between those two pay gap reports. Just a little food for thought there.
Yeah, because it's interesting how we can then go on to interpret the data that we've been presented with, because what I'm looking at looks as though, of course we don't have, as you say, many people from different ethnic groups at the moment, but it is kind of jumping out that perhaps a couple of categories within that is being highlighted. Equally, it looks as though we're closing the gender pay gap, but the problem is we simply need more women, full stop. But with recruitment and all the efforts we're making, we are doing what we can. Thank you for the report. If there are no further comments, then we can move on. Thank you very much. And next item is just for information, which is agreeing on the next meeting date, which is scheduled for the 26th of June. And that's likely to be via Zoom again. So if you can just, well, you've got that in the papers anyway, and hopefully everybody's okay for that date, which is 10:30 a.m, same as today. We are now ready to have Gemma on board, I think, because we now go into the closed session.
Councillor, can I interrupt, please? Councillor Hopkinson had a question.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just put my thumbs up to say that date's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, great, brilliant. Dave's going to tell me now I need to say something formally about exclusion of press and public.
That's right, Chair. If you could just read out the declaration there that it's in the Local Government Act 1972 under Schedule 12A that you're going to resolve to exclude the press and the public because it relates to information relating to an individual and the financial and business affairs of a particular person. So if members could agree that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, in agreement, everyone? Yeah.
And could you also agree that it's in the public interest to exclude the public?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It's now confidential, so hopefully this will not be broadcast live.